What's up, guys? Welcome to the Goddamn Evil Broomstick channel. The Descent is one of my favorite movies of all time. This is a 2005 horror film directed by Neil Marshall, who most recently made that terrible Hellboy movie. But this movie is great. It follows a group of women, great friends, who go down to this cave. They go cave exploring, cave diving, and some fucked up stuff happens to them down in that cave. Now, there's going to be spoilers for the movie. If you have not seen it, I recommend watching the movie. It's very good. And then coming back and watching this video. Now, listen, I've never heard many people talk about what exactly those things they find are in the cave, those creatures that will ultimately kill them all. That those creatures probably come up above ground to feed on nearby hitchhikers and stuff, and we see many bones and blood down there, so we know those people have killed a lot of humans, those creatures. But what are they? Now, I believe there's two options of what those creatures are. The boring option, and probably the more likely option, is that they're just some creepy, fucked up cave creatures that live down there and that have always lived down there, and they just kill humans. And I think that's the one that when you watch the movie, most people just think like, oh, they're just some scary cave creatures. But now this theory might be a little bit far-fetched, but ever since I saw the movie the first time, I've always thought about this, and I like to think that this theory is true. Now, there's a point in the movie where we see hints and signs that other people have explored that cave. Now, there's a character who brings them down to that cave because she wants to be the first to discover it with her friends. She wants them to discover the cave and name it and be the first ones to explore it and dive down and everything. But they discover that other people have been down there. They find some cave diving hooks down there. Now, they find this cave diving equipment, but they say it must be over 100 years old by the looks of it. And that was interesting because you could take that one of two ways. Now, the first way you could take that is that people explored that cave 100 years ago and they were also killed by those creatures. But what I've always thought of and what I've liked to think is, what if those people who were exploring that cave 100 years ago didn't die? What if those people exploring that cave 100 years ago were just never able to make it out? What if those people exploring that cave hundreds of years ago, whose cave diving equipment that was, are these creatures? Now, I'm not saying those people live for hundreds of years, but let's say they got trapped down there. Let's say they got stuck down there, but they found a way to survive down there and to live while they tried to escape. And let's say one of them had a kid down there. And let's say that those kids ended up becoming an entire generation born in that cave. Now, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. Now, I know I think the theory might be a little far-fetched, but also it's a little far-fetched to say that there's these, monster-like beast creatures living down in this cave that are a whole different species. What if those things in the movie The Descent are human, and they have evolved over the generations to be able to survive in the dark, to be able to, because if you're born in a cave, your body adapts. Human beings have adapted over 100 years, over thousands of years. We've changed. I mean, look at us when we were cavemen, and look at us now. We're constantly, and it takes thousands, it takes millions of years to change. And in this movie, maybe the only adaptation they made, they're pale because they've never seen the light of day, really. They've lived in this cave. Maybe they've learned to crawl on the walls because they've had to survive, the same way we learn to run and walk and jump. They learn to crawl and they learn to climb. And what if they learn to feast on blood? If you grow up eating as a cannibal, maybe you learn to survive that way. And if you grow up in the dark where you can't see, you learn to adapt and you learn to find other ways to see. It's like when people go blind and their sense of smell heightens, or their sense of hearing. These creatures could be blind because they've never seen light. And these creatures could be human, who have survived, who were originally those cave divers, who then became an entire generation throughout the 100 years or hundreds of years, became an entire generation of these cave monsters that were originally human, who were trapped down in that cave, and have now, throughout the years and years and years and decades, turned into these cave monsters who were once human but now are just beasts trying to survive and feasting on fellow human who come down into that cave or hike nearby. I love to think of The Descent in this way. I think it adds a whole new layer because, I mean, it's cool to think of, like, you know, cave explorers went down into this cave and they got eaten by a bunch of monsters, and that's it, and that's the movie, and it's still a pretty great movie at that. But I like to think of the movie as cave explorers went down into this cave and they found a fucked up thing that happened in history where a whole entire generation of human beings were living down in this cave and they had never, you know, known anything else other than that cave. And they've learned to survive in that cave and they've learned to live. And if you look at the creatures in The Descent, you can't say those don't look like humans. Just ones that have grown up through generations down in that cave. It's like it could be a very surface level movie if you take it that way, as just cave divers exploring in a cave and getting eaten by monsters. Or if you dive deeper and look at it, you can really theorize on what these monsters are and what their history is. That's my thoughts on The Descent and the creatures in The Descent. Let me know what you think those creatures are. Do you think they're humans that have been evolved over generations to exist in this cave? Or do you just think they're crazy fucking monster creatures down in the caves? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I'm going to get out of here. Check out this Triceratops.